The dress didn't feel like mine. Not because it didn't fit Carrie. At the boutique had tailored it perfectly, but because I couldn't remember the last time I wore anything that wasn't practical. Slacks, cardigans, shoes made for standing. That had been my uniform for over 4 decades, through laundromat openings, PTA meetings, and the slow ache of building a life after Derek passed. But today, I zipped up a navy sheath with delicate beadwork at the cuffs. The brooch I pinned, silver, shaped like a swallow in flight, cost more than I'd ever spent on jewelry. I caught my reflection and didn't recognize her. Not really. Elegant Carrie said softly, handing me the garment bag, "Timeless." I nodded, clutching it, as if it were something fragile. The wedding was 2 weeks away. My only child, Calvin, was marrying Paulina, a woman I barely knew. Their relationship had always lived in a part of his world he never invited me into. Still, I wanted it to be beautiful, for his sake, for appearances, for the version of love I used to believe in. I drove across town to the wedding planner's office, where a binder, the thickness of a Bible, waited on the table. I'd paid for everything in advance: venue catering, the string, lights, they'd string through the trees like stars. $86, $400. I signed the final invoice. My hand didn't tremble. "Are you still sure about remaining anonymous?" the planner Mara asked, her voice cautious. "I'm not here for credit," I said, "just the outcome." She paused, searching my face, maybe trying to understand, but she wouldn't. She didn't know how Calvin refused my money directly, how he flinched at charity from his mother, but boasted about independence he never truly earned. Mara nodded. Understood. As I left the office, the weight of the dress in my hand contrasted sharply with the weight inside my chest. I placed it gently in the back seat of my car, then sat behind the wheel for a long moment before turning the ignition. Driving home, I passed the old laundromat on 4th Street, the first one Derek and I opened. It had a new name, now, new windows, new owners. But for a second, I could still see us through the glass, laughing younger, unburdened by who our son would grow into. The invitation hadn't come yet, but I told myself it would. 3 days after I picked up the dress, I checked the mailbox with a flutter in my chest. A padded envelope from Everins University. 2 catalogs. 1 cable bill. No invitation. I told myself it was still early. Surely they were going out in batches. I started setting reminders 1 week out, then 10 days. I even found myself refreshing email more often than usual, glancing at the screen like something might pop in and reassure me, "You're welcome. You matter. You're wanted." Nothing came. Everin called a few times, bright and breathless. "Grandma, you won't believe how gorgeous the venue is. There's a giant oak in the center of the courtyard. They're wrapping it in lights." Her voice sparkled through the phone. "Paulina's dress is being custom altered in New York, and the menu's wild. Braised lamb fig risotto, like some royal affair." I laughed in the right places and said, "Sounds magical." But she never once asked what I'd be wearing or whether I needed help arranging transportation. Not once did she say, "I can't wait to see you there." I kept reminding myself she's young, distracted, caught up in the whirlwind. Calvin hadn't called at all. I wanted to believe it was an oversight, that perhaps my invitation had been lost. Maybe there was a digital one. Maybe I missed it. Maybe Paulina's family had taken over the guest list. My mind wrapped itself in soft lies like cotton, shielding me from the obvious. Still, I made plans. I picked out the shoes. I found a silk clutch in a shade that matched the dress exactly. I slid a gift check, an uncomfortably large one, into an ivory envelope and tied it with a silver ribbon. Each time I passed the living room mirror, I practiced the look I'd wear that day, poised, quiet, supportive. The mother of the groom standing at the edge of her son's joy. One morning, I called the hotel. Belvedere confirmed the reservation in his name. 120 guests, ceremony at 4, banquet at 7. My name wasn't on the list. Still, I circled the date on my calendar and pressed the envelope under the magnet on the fridge. I'd never been invited, but I was going. The Belvedere was glowing. Marble floors, gold accents, soft harp music floating above the murmur of polished guests. I stepped inside, straightening my back, clutching the small silver purse that matched my brooch. No one noticed me. I moved slowly, scanning the crowd for a familiar face. Paulina's parents were holding court near the entry to the courtyard, laughing with an elegant couple in black tie. Everin was nowhere in sight. Then I saw him, Calvin. He looked expensive. Tailored navy suit, his father's cheekbones sharpened with age. His smile didn't reach his eyes, not even when someone clapped him on the back. He turned mid-conversation and saw me. For a moment, I thought he might smile. He didn't. His mouth tightened. He excused himself from the group and walked toward me with quick, controlled steps. He didn't kiss my cheek, didn't even say hello, just placed a firm hand on my elbow and steered me toward a side alcove by the indoor fountain. "Mom," he began low and urgent. "We talked about this." I blinked. "We haven't talked in weeks. I mean," "You knew," he said, eyes darting around us. "You weren't invited." A silence opened between us, wide and sharp. "I'm your mother," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This is Paulina's day. Her parents are here, her clients, our colleagues. This isn't the place for," he hesitated. "Old reminders." It landed like a slap. Not my past or your presence, but old reminders. I inhaled through my nose. "I paid for this." He flinched. "You said anonymous." "I meant generous, not invisible." He sighed. "You always make things about you." I opened my purse and pressed the envelope with the check into his palm. "This is the last thing I'll give you," I said. He glanced at it but didn't take it. Behind him, a photographer lifted a camera. He stepped aside quickly, placing me between two marble columns. "Please go," he whispered. I stood there for 1 second, too long, then turned. On my way out, I passed the entrance again. No one turned. Not even Everin, who was laughing with the bridal party, unaware that I had come at all. I didn't cry on the way to the car. Not when I walked past white lilies or brushed against a waiter balancing champagne flutes. Not when I passed a trio of women admiring the flower arch I'd paid for. Only when I sat behind the wheel doors, shut, silence thick, did the weight settle into my chest. But the tears still didn't come. Instead, I reached for my phone. "Richmond Bank, this is Karen. How may I assist you?" "This is Marvella Dorn," I said evenly. "I need to cancel all pending payments under my account to Pearl Weddings and its affiliates, effective immediately." Karen paused. "Are you sure some payments are scheduled for today?" "Canceling now may trigger vendor penalties." "I'm aware," I said. "Do it anyway." She asked for verification. I gave it. My voice didn't waver. Afterward, I called Pearl Weddings. A younger voice answered. It took a moment before she recognized me. "Oh, Mrs. Dorn. The banquet starts in 2 hours. Everything's in motion. You'll inform the bride and groom that their sponsor has withdrawn," I said. "The bank is reversing all future payments. The rest is between you and them." But But they think I know what they think, I said quietly. It's no longer my concern. I ended the call. There was a folder in my glove compartment labeled Evren's Future. Inside were scholarship applications, program brochures and notes we jotted down over the years about her dream of becoming an architect, about that school in Vermont, the one with the big dome library. I opened the folder, smoothed the creases in the cover sheet. Then I whispered to no one in particular. Now we build something that won't collapse. A clean choice, even if it wasn't neat. The hotel loomed behind the windshield, a monument to performance and polished betrayal. Somewhere inside, Calvin was preparing to toast his perfect new life, unaware that the foundation was already gone. I didn't start the engine right away. I just sat, hands still, while the luxury wedding I funded unraveled in real time, its flowers wilting its string quartet, soon to go unpaid. I didn't cry. I dialed Evren next. Evren didn't answer on the first call, or the second. On the third, her voice came through, hushed and urgent. "Grandma, are you okay?" "I'm fine, love," I said. "Where are you inside?" "Something weird is happening." The music stopped. They took the flowers off the tables. The staff disappeared like all of them. I listened, imagining it, all unraveling thread by thread. "There's arguing," she added. "Dad's red-faced. Paulina's crying. Her father looks like he's about to sue the walls." I closed my eyes. "The payments were mine," I said simply, "for the wedding, until about 10 minutes ago." Silence pulsed on the line. Then a soft gasp. You paid for it all, and now I haven't." I heard voices rise in the background. A loud thump, a woman shouting. Then Evren whispered, "Oh my God, the planner just told them. She said you funded it, and now it's all off." She didn't speak for several seconds. "I need to go," she said finally. "People are panicking." I nodded, forgetting she couldn't see me. "Call me later, sweet girl." I hung up and sat still. Let the image form in my mind, Calvin's tight jaw, slack with disbelief, Paulina's pristine exterior, cracking in real time, her father's demands boiling to the surface. I hadn't needed to shout. I didn't need to raise my voice to be heard. Sometimes silence carries more truth than speeches, and today mine spoke volumes. By nightfall, I imagined the ballroom mostly empty. Half-eaten desserts, the scent of roses shoved back in buckets, a headline no one would write, "Mother erased," then erased the illusion. I pulled out the envelope with Evren's name on it. The future doesn't have to arrive dressed in lace and silver. It just has to arrive. The phone rang again. Calvin, fourth time in under an hour. I didn't answer. I watched it vibrate across the table like something desperate cornered. It stopped, then started again. A message came through, "Mom. We need to talk. You can't just do this." But I could, and I had. A few minutes later, it was Evren. I picked up immediately. "Grandma," she said, her voice tight with emotion. "It's chaos here. Chairs overturned. People leaving. Paulina's dad is demanding contracts. The planner looked like she was going to pass out. Did you really?" "Yes, sweetheart," I said gently. "I really did." But why I held the phone closer, as if she could feel the steadiness through it. Because I wasn't invited, but I was expected to pay. That's not how love works. That's not how family works. I heard her breathe in sharply, a shaky inhale, then soft sobbing. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry for what he did. It's not your apology to carry," I told her. "None of this is on you." She cried. I didn't. My tears had burned out in the silence of his rejection. What remained wasn't sorrow. It was clarity. After we hung up, I walked to the kitchen counter and opened the envelope labeled Trust Agreement. Evren Dorn. I reviewed the final lines once more, signed at the bottom, and slid it into the outgoing mail pile. Her graduate tuition was now fully funded. Architecture Vermont, all of it. No conditions, no debts. Let Calvin chase prestige. Let Paulina fume in silk and fury. The only legacy I was interested in now wore her father's eyes and my mother's stubbornness, and she was going to build something beautiful with it. I made tea, no sugar, just lemon, and sat by the window as the day dulled to gray. Somewhere a wedding had fallen apart, but something else had been put back together, quietly, intentionally, and it had my name on it. The banging rattled the glass. I hadn't even poured my first cup of coffee when I heard his voice. "Open the door, Mom. I know you're in there." I tied my robe tighter and walked slowly to the front. He looked like he hadn't slept, wrinkled collar, wild eyes tie hanging loose around his neck like an afterthought. I stepped aside. He didn't wait for permission. "You humiliated me," he spat. "You sabotage everything I built." I shut the door behind him with a quiet click. "Coffee." He glared at me. "No, I'm not here for tea and niceties. You ruined my wedding." I moved into the kitchen and poured myself a mug. "You mean the one I paid for?" "I didn't ask you to pay for it," he snapped. "No," I said, sipping. "You never asked. You just accepted." He paced fists, clenching and unclenching. "You went behind my back, made everything about you." I turned to face him. "Let's talk about what I did. The down payment on your first condo, $40,000. Everin's school every semester. The credit card debt, 3 separate times. The car loan, the divorce lawyer. The birthday trips, the spontaneous emergency wire transfers." He said nothing. "You want me to list more?" I asked. His voice cracked. "You were never a real mother to me. Just a paycheck. That should have broken me. Once it would have. But not today." I stood straighter. "Then I've stopped pretending." He froze. "I won't pretend I'm welcome where I'm not. I won't pretend you respect me. And I sure as hell won't pretend my value ends when my checkbook closes." "You think this makes you some kind of hero?" he asked bitterly. "No," I said. "I think it makes me a woman who's finally done mistaking silence for love." He looked away. His hands shook. Mine didn't. "Get out of my house then," he muttered. "I believe it was you who said I wasn't part of your life anymore," I replied. "This is my house. You're the guest." He stared at me as if seeing me for the first time, and maybe he was. He stood there still fuming when I set the folder on the table. "This is what you came for, isn't it?" I asked, flipping it open. "The money." Calvin's eyes darted to the paperwork, lips pressed so tightly they lost color. Is that the refund?" I almost pitied the hope in his voice. "No. That's the trust account I opened in Everin's name. $86,000, fully funded, legally sealed, irrevocable." His face twisted. "You're kidding." I slid the final notarized page toward him. "Graduate school internships, housing, if she needs it. The same way I once did for you." "You had no right," he growled, jabbing the table with his finger. "She's my daughter." I leaned forward, calm as stone. "And she's my granddaughter. And unlike you, she's never treated me like a forgotten obligation." His jaw worked, fury tightening every muscle in his face. "You did this to get back at me." "No," I said, folding the papers back neatly. "I did this so Everin grows up knowing that love isn't measured by how much you extract from someone, but how much you protect them from becoming like you." Calvin recoiled like I'd slapped him. You think I'm some kind of monster. I stood, slowly letting the silence stretch between us. I think you forgot who raised you. He looked down, hands curling into fists at his sides. You don't get to paint yourself as the saint here. I'm not a saint, I said. I'm a woman who cleaned your messes buried. Her husband built a business from nothing and never once asked to be worshipped, just included. His mouth opened, but no words came out. I stepped closer. You may have cut me out of the wedding, Calvin, but I've cut you out of the last part of me that believed I had to earn your affection. He looked at the trust documents again, then back at me. I'll fight this. I gave him a tired smile. You're welcome to try, but the deed's already done. He turned to leave without another word. The door slammed behind him, but I didn't flinch. I just picked up the folder and tucked it safely into the drawer labeled Legacy. The magnolia outside my window bloomed in full, and the breeze that drifted through the screen door smelled of salt and something sweet. Savannah had given me quiet space and anonymity. I was no one's mother here. I was simply Marvella. The house was smaller than the one in Wilmington, but it was mine. Every curtain, every plate, every lamp had been chosen by me, not for what others might think, but for what I liked. I went to watercolor class on Tuesdays and Fridays. We painted sea turtles last week. I wasn't very good, but I didn't care. No one there knew my story. They just knew my name and that I laughed more than I used to. This morning, I opened my phone and saw a message from Everin. Highest honors. I graduate next month. Couldn't have done it without you. Thank you for believing in me. I stared at the words until my eyes blurred. Then I whispered, You did it, sweetheart, and pressed the phone to my chest. I walked to the hallway closet and pulled down my suitcase, blue with small wheels, just enough room for light dresses and soft sandals. I opened the top drawer in the kitchen, slid out the envelope labeled Cruise, and double-checked the itinerary. 7 days, Caribbean, ocean-facing cabin, no itinerary except what I made myself. I folded the printed ticket and slipped it into my travel wallet, alongside my passport and a new paperback novel. Later that evening, I watered the flowers on my porch and waved to Miss Rena across the street. She yelled something about shrimp gumbo, and I promised to stop by tomorrow before I left. She didn't ask who I was leaving behind, only where I was going, and for once, that was enough. Inside, I zipped the last of my bags and laid my ticket on the dresser. The cruise ship would leave from Jacksonville at noon sharp. I'd already arranged a taxi. The weight in my chest, the kind I used to carry for years, was gone. I poured a glass of cold sweet tea, stepped out onto the porch swing, and listened as the wind moved through the trees. Everin arrived just after 10 with croissants and too much almond milk. She'd flown in for a weekend break before her summer fellowship began, all grown into the woman I always hoped she'd be: confident, self-aware, kind. We sat at my small kitchen table, the window cracked open to let in the Savannah breeze. She told me about her courses, the new studio she'd be working in, her plans to apply for grad school abroad. Her eyes were alight with things that didn't exist in my generation's vocabulary co-ops, sustainable housing design, digital modeling, but I loved every word. Eventually, the subject shifted gently, as it always did. He's quieter now, she said, stirring her tea. Still proud, still polished, but something's off. Paulina barely speaks at dinners. He's not at that big firm anymore, moved to a smaller agency. Said he wanted less pressure, but she trailed off. I didn't ask for more. I'd learned that silence often reveals more than stories do. He never brings you up, Evren continued. But when I say your name, he listens, always listens, doesn't interrupt, doesn't change the subject. I took a sip of my coffee, warm and sweet. Then he knows how to find me, I said. My voice was soft but even. Evren nodded. He does. We didn't dwell on it. There was no need. Some doors don't need to be knocked on again. They simply wait closed or open on their own terms. Later that evening, we walked the riverfront. She took a picture of the docks, then one of me by a magnolia tree, promising to print it for her new dorm wall. When we got home, she helped me fold my clothes into the cruise bag, tucking the ticket between a linen dress and a paperback. She left at dawn the next morning, kissed my cheek, and said, "Have fun. Send postcards." At noon, I wheeled my bag to the dock. The ship rose high and white above the water. As I stepped aboard, I felt it not nerves, not fear, but peace. The kind that comes when no one invites you, but you show up anyway for yourself.